Hey everybody, it's Jose Laya. We hope you're doing well. The second quarter of 2025 for the real estate market is in the books. And since the beginning of this year, we've started to do our market updates, focusing on each neighborhood we cover as a single video to allow you to really hone in on the neighborhood of your choice. Whether you currently live there and want to see how the market is doing, or you're considering buying there, we want to be able to put the information in your hands in a quick and easy way. We're also going to look at a lot more data points to be able to give you more details and information as to how the market is doing. We will also give you a breakdown of the sales data, including active listings for sale, closed sales, and we're also going to dive a bit deeper to see what price range most of this activity is taking place in. And we then will wrap things up with our market summary. Today, we're going to look at the condo market in south of 5th, which is the southernmost point in Miami Beach and one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in all of Miami. We have a lot to cover, so let's jump right in. So here we have our first graph, and what we're doing is that we're breaking it down month over month for the second quarter. Let's jump right in. Look at April. It had 127 active listings, and from April, May, and June, active listings increased dramatically. Now we want to dive a little bit deeper into this because this is something that we saw in all the areas that we cover and in the neighborhoods that we do videos in for. We noticed this trend where in the second quarter, April has a low number of active listings, and then April, May, June, boom, it increases again. And what we found, because we wanted to dive a little bit deeper, because we didn't find it a coincidence that it was happening pretty much in every neighborhood that we cover. So we found that what happens in April, most listings, when they're taken, they're set to expire March 31st. So therefore, come April, you have a lot of those active listings that have not relisted yet. However, given the coming weeks and coming months, all those active listings that expired on March 31st, they get relisted. And therefore, that's why you see that number increase dramatically month over month, April, May, and June. We just wanted to point that out because at first it jumped out to us, and then we dove a little bit deeper and found out why. So this number of active listings increasing that much to us doesn't alarm us. Let's go across the board to see the other key indicators to see what's going on here in south of 5th. Closed sales stayed pretty steady. Months of supply pretty steady. Days on the market's the only one that really increased up to 127, and pricing pretty much stayed about the same, given the April and May jump and then back down in June. Median price sold was a bit higher though in June over the previous couple of months, but so far the data looks pretty good. Let's jump into the next graph where we compare these second quarter numbers to the first quarter to see if we can spot any trends. Let's take a look at that now. So here's our second graph where we're comparing the first quarter numbers to the second quarter. And we want to start by pointing out, look at the active numbers, the active listings. Look at the number. It went from 223 active listings in the first quarter to 179. So the number of active listings quarter over quarter actually decreased, while in the prior graph, we saw the number of active listings from April, which had 127, ramp up to 179. If you just look at that one graph and put that in context, you could say, wow, that's a huge number. That's a huge increase in the number of active listings. Yes and no. Now that we look at this and compare the second quarter to the first quarter, we can actually see that, yes, it was a big increase from April to June. However, look at this quarter compared to the prior quarter. Active listings are down considerably. That's why we like to use a few different graphs to be able to really put the numbers in context and give you, the most details that we can on each neighborhood. Let's go across the board and we look. Closed sales increased slightly to 56. Months of supply went down to 10. Days on market's the only number here that stands out a bit, as it increased from 78 to 102. Median price sold and median price per square foot pretty much stayed about the same. It held steady though. So from what we can see here, we're getting some mixed signals that are coming out of the condo market in South of Fifth. However, overall, the numbers look pretty good. So let's take a look at our last graph to see where the market stands today, as well as what price range all this activity is taking place in. Let's look at that now. So here's our snapshot of where the market stands today, as well as what price range all the activity is taking place in, both active listings and closed sales. So active listings 179. There's 56 total closed sales for the entire second quarter. That gives us about 10 months of supply. To put that in context, they consider a balanced market to have anywhere from 6 to 9 months. So 10 months actually isn't pretty bad. Let's jump down below to see what price range most of the activity is taking place in. And right away, we can see that from $0 to $1 million or $1 million and under has the most active listings at 78 and the most closed sales at 25. If we look at the next price range, which is 1 to 3 million, 52 actives and 16 closed sale. If we lump those numbers together, we can quickly see that about 75% of the market activity in South of Fifth is at the $3 million and under mark. That's just something that we like to point out for you guys to get an idea as to where the market is in South of Fifth and in all the neighborhoods that we cover. If we look at, we just keep going down the graph or up the graph. And at the $10 million plus range, right now we have 15 active listings, but there was only 3 closed sales for the entire quarter. We will point out, as we have said in other videos and in neighborhoods that we cover, this is a common theme for all areas that we cover, is at the $10 million plus range, there seems to be a slowdown with very little sales activity. And then the last price range there is 20 million plus. There's 5 condos listed at over $20 million in South of Fifth, but there were 0 closed sales for the entire quarter. Now that we are in the midst of summer, which is typically a slower selling season, as families are more focused on their summer travel plans, we just have to see how this all plays out. We also like to point out that out of the 56 closed sales, we always like to point out the lowest priced closed sale. We could see it was a small studio for $205,000. Yes, you can get a property in South of Fifth for that little money, but it's a small studio in an older building. The highest priced closed sale for the second quarter was a 5-bedroom condo at the oceanfront building of Continuum South for $17 million, 17.1 to be exact. It was almost $3,600 per square foot. Now that we've run through all the numbers, let's jump into our market summary. Okay, so in summary, we can see that the condo market in South of Fifth overall seems to be doing pretty good. We're getting some mixed signals though, as we did see that days on market increased by a lot, as well as the market seems to be very strong below $5 million, as we saw by the numbers, and especially below 3 million. While the market above 5 million and even 10 million plus really seems to be slowing down. And again, we'll say it, that's pretty much across all neighborhoods that we cover. And like we said, that $20 million plus price range for condos had 0 closed sales for the quarter. We now have to see how this all plays out as we're in the midst of summer, which is typically the slower selling season. For buyers, right now, there is a lot of inventory for you to sort through, and days of market is increasing, which are both positive for you. However, as we've always said with condos, you truly have to go building by building, as one building may have a lot of active listings and the one next door may have virtually none. As for trying to time the market, there's so much uncertainty out there that it'll affect everyone differently, so it may affect some more than others. We just say focus on finding the right condo for you at the right price, and know that sellers are more open to negotiating to get a deal done. If you're a seller in this market, you have to understand that inventory levels, they are a bit high. and seem to be climbing. Of course, we'll point it out again, with condos, it's very building specific. So be aware of this when pricing your condo, even if your building has low inventory for sale. Understand that there's a lot more options out there for buyers to sort through. Along with the fact that interest rates still remain high and buyers are just exhausted. So understand that the market is very sensitive to price. Price it correctly, and in this market, that means you will need to price it a bit under what you feel the market will bear in order to attract as much attention as possible as soon as your listing comes online. We always like to point out that the market will speak to you. You just have to be willing to listen. If you list your condo and there's zero activity, that's a signal that your price is off and buyers and brokers are not seeing the value. Adjust accordingly and do it fast. Do not wait. If not, you'll be chasing the market. It's never a good idea, especially if you need to sell. Well, that's our second quarter for 2025 market update for condos in South of 5th. I am Jose Laya. I was born and raised right here in Miami. And as I start my 19th year in the real estate business, I can proudly say that our goal in making these videos is to provide you with value and help as many people as we can by sharing real market data to give you a better insight into the local market. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.